Hey everybody, it's my new video, and in this one I'm going to talk about one of my old dreams. I always wanted to be a police officer. Not a rat, not an informant. I'm talking police officer. I just love how they dress and everything. You know what? I almost I almost got it on with a police officer. She was so freaking hot. Anyway, yeah, she knew what I was trying to say. She was like, holy shit, she was sexy as fuck. I love a woman in uniform. Anyway, back to my story. I was talking to this officer. We were talking for a while, and I told him, how can I sign up to be an officer? Then he started saying, you have to have at least grade 12 education. You can't be mentally ill. And all that, and I have to go to college and all this stuff and take training lessons. Then I told him, I don't have a grade 12. I don't have a grade 12. I'm mentally challenged, so those two are off the table. I told him I'm mentally ill, and I started telling him, is there any way you can make me into an officer, like a police officer, like on the side, like I could arrest people and stuff. Then he was like, okay, this is what he told me. He was like, okay, what I'm gonna do for you, Thomas, is I'm gonna give you I'm gonna put you under a test. I'm gonna give you a test that rookies take. He said he's gonna give me a test that rookies, questions and stuff that rookies are asked to answer. And then I told him, okay, fire away, what's going on? Then he said, okay. He said, if you see somebody acting crazy, waving their hands around and stuff like that, what do you do? Then I told him, you arrest him. Then he said, no, you don't arrest him. You take him in, interrogate him, because he might be under the influence of some kind of drug or alcohol. You just failed the test. He told me that. He said I failed the test. And then he said, question 2. If a perp hits you or attacks you, what do you do? Then I told him, you fight back. And then he said, no, you try to restrain him, then arrest him for assaulting an officer. Then you just failed the second test. That's when I told him, hey, I'm not good at all these tests, these questions, mumbo jumbo, all this shit. Then he said, well, you'd be better off joining the army, Thomas. That's what he told me. I'd be better off joining the army. But apparently, I almost joined the army, but I failed. I also did a written test for that, but I failed. And the same thing goes with the army, because you have to be mentally stable. You have to have at least a grade 10, grade 12 education. So, I mean, I'm good with physical, I bench about 200. I can run. But they even told me that in the army you have to be able to carry at least 100 pounds over your back and walk a good 2-3 miles. Man. After they said that, I was like, holy shit, man, you guys go through a lot, man. And they were like, yep, that's what it takes. I actually know a lot of Vietnam veterans and some Iraq veterans. Every time I talk to a Vietnam vet, the stories, I'm telling you, their stories are fucked up. Like, I've heard so much stories, because I always wanted to be a soldier in Iraq. I came really close. I was actually going to cheat. I was actually going to cheat on the test and see if they could send me up, but I said I can't do that because you can get arrested for that, for cheating on a test. Anyway, yeah, one of the stories, one of my friends from Vietnam said, he said, the scariest thing about Vietnam is when the helicopter drops you on the ground. That's the scariest shit ever. Because he said once you hit the ground, you are pretty much a target. There could be Japs in the bushes. There could be snipers sniping you out right away. He said he did about, the one I'm talking about, did about 2 or 3 years in Vietnam. He's still a hero. I look at those people as some heroes, you know? You know what I mean? Other people look at them as murderers, killers. But they're not murderers, they're killers. Most of the people in Vietnam didn't even ask to join. Didn't even ask to join the army, or didn't even ask to join the army. Most of them got drafted by the President of the United States. They were drafted. They didn't ask to go to Vietnam and kill people, you know what I mean? There's been a lot of volunteers that actually did this too. They go up there not just to fight for our freedom, but to make sure that, you know, nobody, tongue-tied, I don't know what to say anymore. Yeah, you know, I met a lot of cooks too that served on the ships in Vietnam, and, you know, he told me all these movies, the reality of Vietnam is nothing. These movies have nothing to do with the actual life of Vietnam. That cook said, once you lived it, all these movies are just fake. He said you have to live it to understand it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching my video, and I'll see you in the future.